Greetings, friends. Randall Nagy here, and today I want to tell you about two programs we created using AI, and reminding you that whether you like to shout about it or shout at it, AI is here to stay. And personally, I love to shout about the fact how I can use AI. And in this case, I use both Google's AI as well as Microsoft's Copilot over on GitHub to create two programs. The first program I created was called Beheaded. And because I create a lot of software in Python, I needed a way to put headers and make sure that a file, Beheaded, to use a little urban speak. That was a great and iterative exercise over on GitHub, and it used up most of my credits for the month. No surprise that Microsoft Copilot likes to keep us talking. So I went over to Google to do my next project, and that would be, of course, the to-do manager that I call Do Master. In putting both together today, I wanted to show you how we could use a Beheaded package simply by using the instructions we see up here on the package website, over here on GitHub, soon to be over on the Python package index as well. Once we've installed the latest version of the Beheaded module, all we have to do is activate Python to execute the module and choose, in this case, to recurse. And so we want to recurse through this directory. Before we do that, however, let's take a look at what is in this directory. A new package that I'll be releasing very shortly. And opening up the test cases, we'll see that we have some comments here. And of course, because those comments are at the top of the file, we're going to call that a header. And that header is both here in our test cases, of course, and are soon to be in our Dunder main, as well as everywhere else. Switching back over to console, therefore, let's go ahead and execute our Beheaded module to recurse our directory to see the 4 files were changed. And of course, that was in the subdirectory Do Master, and we recursed into that subdirectory by using the appropriate command line options. Of course, the miracle of providing a dunder main.py file with any of our packages is that we can indeed, as you may or may not know, use that to execute the main loop. And while I'm not a very big fan of this AI-generated loop, for obvious reasons, in other words, the command line options are different than what we see here. When we execute help, and if I had a different screen, of course, we see a rather jumbled view of what all the options are, which can be much easier seen by using the double minus sign options, as we expect whenever we have the standard argparse module. So while the TUI is definitely going to be updated, we might even have a GUI version of the Beheaded menu options later on. It's good enough for us to call this a 1.0 and consider putting it up into the cheese shop of the Python package index. Switching back over to our files, of course, because we changed the modification time rather than the creation time, of course, one of the things that we're going to have Behead do, of course, is to save that date and time of the file when it was last modified at 6:02 this morning before putting in the TBDs or to be determined tags that I can add and update later on. Now, you might have noticed that we generated a .beheaders.json file in our present working directory. Taking a moment to click on that, I've updated that beheaders file to simply include my name and associate it with the authors tag that we see defined in our header. Deleting everything after we've updated our header, we can delete the fields that we want to have regenerated. Then, by executing the Beheaded module once again, this time using the -R rather than the double dash recurse, simply because it's easy to remember, and you'll see that one file was indeed changed in our subdirectory. And not only were the previous contents preserved during our update date, but of course we have our new date and time for our file, as well as the author tag. And of course, if we would have changed the file name, Do Master would have been replaced with whatever file name we changed it to. So as we see on the Beheaded project site, we do have the idea of starting our Beheaded process as a predefined module. And the first thing the Beheaded package is going to do is to see if there's a .beheaded.json in the present working directory. And if there isn't, we're going to create it as we've seen. If there is, as we've just seen, we'll simply open that file, override any of our defaults, before parsing the rest of our parameters and doing each and every one of our operations as you'd expect. So located in the core, if you want to take a look at all of our default tags, of course, we'll see that on line 43 and on line 44 we have other things. For example, allowed statuses, which you can modify as well so as to enforce any statuses or suggest any one of the stages that we're going to have when we're creating software, up to and including even, of course, the ability to change the width of the line wrap for our mission statements, as well, of course, as the default name for our file, as we see on line 52. Definitely a work in progress. We're going to be checking in Do Master later on today, as well as creating a new package product so that you can run Do Master, as well as to make sure that all of your packages also be headed. Once again, urban speak. Nothing to do with the French Revolution. Heil Hillary, man. To quickly add all the metadata you'd like to see on your programs. And soon we'll be able to be customized using something I'm calling the Tag Manager, which we'll be covering later on in another video. Finishing off where we started, of course, you'll note that anything that we might have had in our headers, in this case in our test cases, would of course be respected and preserved even when our headers are being updated. In closing, please allow me to note that one of the life lessons I have learned is to he who has shall more be given. And if we begin to start managing our inspiration using something like Do Master, of course, and as one famous author once said, the best way to have a really good idea is to have a lot of ideas and then throw all the bad ones away.